I'm John Fandl, and in these informal chats, we learn about the many ways that customers are using Openbravo to take control of their enterprise applications. Today, I'll be talking to John Coble of SAIC. John, perhaps you can start by telling us a bit about SAIC and your role there.
SAIC is a $10 billion defense contractor based out of McLean, Virginia, outside DC. And as you might imagine, as a defense contractor, we really support the warfighter. And the business unit that I'm with is the Logistics and Engineering Solutions business unit. We are 1.1 billion of that 10 billion in revenue. And our primary job is to get supplies and parts to the warfighter, when they need it. So we are a supply chain management group, and we really are an extension of the Defense Logistics Agency, a part of their procurement process. And we do full life cycle logistics for DLA and the individual military forces, Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, and some federal government branches as well.
Clearly, supplying U.S. troops in active combat is a mission critical operation. Can you give us some examples of the types of items you manage for the military?
Yeah, each of our contracts is really pretty unique, but if we take a look at one of our larger contracts, it's referred to as the tires program, and every tire, air and ground both, so planes, trucks, Humvees, um, anything that's a non-tracked vehicle, we procure, supply, and deliver those tires in theater, meaning into Iraq, into Afghanistan, to the forward operating bases or the supply depots outside. It's critical. We are a critical part of that supply chain, and we also supplied fuel and petrochemicals into theater also. So you can imagine the complexities that we're dealing with and having to receive demand signals from multiple sources, aggregate those demand signals, do some basic forecasting, and then go through the entire order to cash payment cycle.
Stepping back a bit, can you tell us a bit about your ERP selection process? What were your key business objectives and why did you choose OpenBravo?
Yeah, um, like most businesses, defense budgets are under severe pressure these days with our budgets and everything. And as a result of that, the defense DLA has gotten uber competitive, and we had to really take a hard look at our business and say, how are we going to restructure and really gear ourselves for this uber competitive environment that we're going into with the defense budgets. And part of that competitiveness was not just immediately figuring out how to get to a lower cost solution, but how to respond quicker and how to be more flexible with the government and with the buying agencies. And in addition to that, we also had to address becoming more competitive on a cost basis. And as we started thinking about that, we said, we still need, you know, uh, custom solutions because the contracts are so unique from contract A to contract B. We wanted to find a place where we could get, let's say, 80% of the core functionality met in a base solution like Openbravo with their ERP system, and still have the flexibility and the ability to customize that last 20% to make it very bespoke for the specific large contract that we're dealing with. And that's really the unique value that Openbravo and open source in general provided us, because we can get that core based solution and still be able to customize it and extend the core product to meet our specific business requirements. And those business requirements really are unique for each large contract that we serve. And we handle, dozens of large contracts at a single time. So that flexibility and the ability to extend the product was key to us.
So, what was SAIC using to fulfill these contracts before bringing in Openbravo?
Yeah, we're on the back end side. We were using a combination of custom software that we developed over 20 years, and also a large commercial COTS ERP package. And we found that the large commercial COTS ERP package was not flexible enough and not adaptable enough to really meet our business needs as they changed and evolved at a quicker and quicker pace. And the custom code, quite frankly, just became very brittle, old, and was running on a platform that was no longer supported.
So, it sounds like SAIC has had a lot of experience with both custom development and large package apps, and your perception of Openbravo was that it could potentially provide the best of both worlds. So, tell us about your experience with Openbravo. Have we met your expectations?
Yeah, really, we've had a great experience working with Openbravo, and the ability to help influence the product and the direction of the product has been, I think, one of the best attributes of becoming a member of the open source community. And that is something, quite frankly, that most of my peers at SEIC didn't realize or recognize up front, but it was something that was very, very strategic and to the heart of why we wanted to go with Openbravo and an open source selection.
Gotcha. So, in general, ERP implementations can be very challenging. Do you have any advice for others who are just starting on their open source ERP journey?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things, and moving to an open source ERP platform is not that different from moving to a commercial COTS ERP platform. There are still basic project management things that you need to do. Um, you know, Number one is the involvement of the users, and make it a joint project. And this sounds obvious, but if you don't have the business and the line operations right there with you, 50-50 proposition, the best laid technical plans will not result in a successful project. We've seen that over and over again. Number two is really, developing that ecosystem, that extended partnership, and especially in stepping into an open source environment, I think it's important to find a implementation partner that you can depend on, that you can work with well, and ultimately that you trust and that can help steer you into the open source community and how to become a positive contributing member of that community. And we were fortunate to engage with TDS, Transitional Data Systems, and I believe they're one of your gold partners at Openbravo. And the three of us working together, SAIC, Openbravo, and TDS, have really come together and made for a successful project. And one of the keys to our project that I'd like to point out is, as I mentioned, these large government contracts that we respond to and that we operate for typically about a 5-year period, is the ability to onboard customers quicker. So traditionally, the government would allow us or ask for a 120-day transition period to move from, the incumbent contractor, let's say, to SEIC, who was taking over this large contract, like the tires program that I mentioned. And 120 days, you've got to switch over all of your systems, typically, 20 to 30 interface feeds, and you've got to be up and running, procuring product, delivering product, having that product in the pipeline without missing a heartbeat. Because again, if these shipments don't go out on time, on schedule, and you don't have visibility to the assets throughout your pipeline, there's severe ramifications, to the warfighter, obviously. And one of the key strategic elements that we're seeing in Openbravo, and when you talk about flexible ERP, is our ability to cut that transition time down. So the ability to onboard complex new contracts in 90 days instead of 120 days is huge. And so this is significant business value. And again, it's because the the software is allowing you to mold the software to your process as opposed to molding your business process to the software, which is what we've all seen in the past with, large commercial cost products.
That's great. So I understand this has been a multi-year effort and you've had a lot of time with it. Looking back, is there anything you would have done differently?
Yeah, I think when I mentioned it first, and it was because of our experience, the business engagement and the line operations. For the first year, it was really viewed as a technical project to get off of a dying platform and off of our homegrown systems and merely move that functionality over into, current web-based open source platform. And, after about the first year and a half, you know, we in the business really recognized that this is not a technical project. This is a business project, and we got to have the line engaged in a 50-50 partnership with the tech group. And once we did that, then things really started moving, and the business got so excited because they could see how much further they could go with the Openbravo platform versus our homegrown platform. So all of a sudden, new features and functions that they wanted but hadn't gotten in the last 10 years, they were able to envision, and we were able to work with Openbravo and TDS and start to customize the package to fulfill that.
It sounds like SAIC is realizing some real strategic value with Openbravo. Did you have much open source experience prior to bringing in Openbravo?
Just small, I would say small open source engagements. Obviously, running Linux on a bunch of servers and in our labs, in our data center and stuff. You know, at the infrastructure level, yes. At the application level, no. And that was a big difference. So it was a big step up from saying, yeah, we can run this on our infrastructure and our data centers, to saying, hey, we're now going to step this up a level and bring it in at the application level and specifically at the ERP level and really put our core business and operations onto an open source platform.
So your experience was that Openbravo was compatible with your existing corporate infrastructure. For example, I understand you deployed with the commercial database option.
Yeah, just because of a number of decisions that were made, and again, being part of a larger corporate entity, even though we're a $1 billion business unit, we're still part of this $10 billion enterprise. And prior to myself getting engaged in the project, decisions were made at infrastructure level to go with, yeah, commercial database product. And, yeah, and that's been fine, quite frankly. But again, as we get into more competitiveness and looking at the budgets and the price pressure, we now have on our roadmap next year to move off that commercial database product and onto PostgreSQL on the open source side. So again, we've seen the benefits of the open source application layer, and we're gonna extend our reach into that open source environment further.
We can say Oracle, that's fine. So it sounds like the option to use Oracle was a good one for SAIC, at least to get started.
Yeah, it was a quick way to get up, to bring our project up and to get our infrastructure in place. And we had a number of DBAs with extensive Oracle experience, so it was one less thing to change out initially.
John Coble, thank you so much for sharing your Openbravo experiences and insights. Any final thoughts?
No, the only, I think we hit on a lot of the key points, and I think your moniker, flexible ERP, really speaks to the heart of what you can do with the product. I mean, it is truly amazing, and it's really good to see, somebody like me. I've got 10 years of experience with SAP and Oracle ERP systems, and to be able to mold the business into the product as opposed to having the product mold the business is a significant change, and it's fun to work with. It's good guys.
You know, I'm thinking SAP and Oracle jocks might be a bit resistant. Was your staff just eager to learn something new, or was bringing in Openbravo negative for some people, at least in the beginning?
No, definitely not a negative in my perspective. It was definitely a nervousness and a risk, I would say, to the application development team and, some of the lower level tech guys. To me, I saw it as an opportunity and an evolution, if you will. And quite frankly, I think, when we look back or look 10 years forward into the future, you're going to see more and more open source development, open source applications out there. There's no question from having seen it from the inside now for the last couple of years with Openbravo that this is the future of software development.
Now that's a great closing line, especially from a CTO with a decade of SAP and Oracle under his belt. John, thanks so much for taking the time to kick off this first edition of Taking Control with Openbravo.